Simply Scuba presents the Deco Stop podcast. Hi everybody and welcome to the Deco Stop podcast. I'm Mark.
And I'm Shaun. How's it going?
And we're here to talk about scuba diving and stuff.
No.
I know.
Every week you trick me. You're like, Shaun, before we start, right, what we're going to do, this week there's going to be a nice split. We'll have some hiking, we'll have some scuba. Do you know what? We'll talk about paragliding as well. A bit of mountain biking.
Let's talk about Scarfell Pike.
Yeah. Travan. It's all about Travan, dude.
Travan's, that's a hill I know of.
A hill? Get out the podcast. Get out. But no, scuba diving. Fine. No, fine. I see you've already got it scheduled. We'll talk about scuba diving, Mark. Oh.
Just once more. More. Next time. Next time, I promise.
Okay. Well, shut up. What do you want to talk about? Jeez.
The Simply Scuba website. So a few quick updates from the Simply Scuba website. The first one is that we've updated our header menu. So the departments are basically rearranged.
Why was that not in the national papers, Mark? Why have we not done our final DSN on us updating our header?
I wrote to them all, but nobody replied. It's just kind of cool, kind of interesting. But yeah, if you can't find something or you want to see an extra thing, just let us know and we'll talk to our dev team. And then next year they'll update it.
No. 2 years. Come on.
2 years. Oh, that's true. We have a Paralens offer on at the moment. This is on the Vaquita. So if you buy a Vaquita dive camera, you get a free 3D or third person viewer.
Yeah.
That's it. It's basically a selfie stick, but it's got floats in it that go either side of the camera. So when you're recording, you can like clip it to yourself, and then the camera records you in the water from a third-person view, which is kind of cool. You don't have to have a friend, a very dedicated friend with a camera to actually record you in the water. You can do it all by yourself. Obviously, you can't do it in like overhead environments because it's just going to drag and catch and snag on everything. But yeah, out in sort of open blue water, it's kind of cool. You can also use it as a pokey device to kind of get your camera sort of where you want to without getting too close to the reef or something sharp and dangerous.
I hope you've put that in the description on the website. This is a pokey device. If not, you need to put that in there now.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it in the product video.
The video.
I don't know. It's probably in the description there somewhere. The Apex Guideline, or to use its full title, the Apex Lifeline Guideline reel is in stock. These are really cool. I mean, most guidelines, if you like scratch the brand off, you couldn't tell which one it is because they're all basically the same thing, just with a different brand name on it.
Look, you're letting people into the inner circle, Mark. Don't do that.
Industry secrets. They do all have their own little nuances, but they're all fairly just blocky and boring. Whereas this one, they've basically sort of gone, what if we combined like guidelines with like a Kawasaki bike, and yeah, so they're all funky colors, they're all sort of very adjustable, but they are tough as nails. Sort of 120 meters of really tough line, bright orange line, so it's really easy to see in all environments. So if you do dive in overhead environments, then definitely sort of check it out. And then next it says Spring-Shaun.
Yeah, so I've got a new business.
Shaun is spelt wrong. It's spelt with a U.
Yeah, that's the correct way. Right, that's it.
Or an E.
Get out. I'm gonna edit all your stuff differently next week, Mark. Get ready. You're gonna be bald and you're gonna be wearing dresses.
Mark with a C.
Yeah, Mark with a C. No, so yeah, basically I'm starting a new venture. It's nothing to do with Simply Scuba. I've got my own spring store. So if you want to buy springs.
He's going rogue. Stop him.
I've got lots of different types and sizes. No, so we obviously have a spring store. We mention it pretty much every video. We've got a new design on that. Basically, we went down an eco route, the Have a Conscious, which was really something that we looked forward to. But no one was buying. Basically, no one was buying them. So now, obviously, spoilers if you haven't watched it, but DSN's over, so which I'll talk about a little bit later, but I've basically got a little bit more free time, so I'm going to be spending a bit more time as of next week on the spring store. So there will be more designs, there will be more options for people to buy additional stuff. So we tried to go down the eco route. No one was buying it, so I'm going to see if we can make it a bit more appealing for people. So yeah, basically just watch this space. I'll probably talk about it more as of next week. But I thought I'd just mention it now, so there will be more options and designs available soon. And that's all I wanted to say. And yeah, it's ShaunSprings.com if you want to go there to buy some springs. I'm a bit...
That probably exists.
Yeah. My brass springs have yet to come. There's been a bit of a shortage due to COVID. But apparently, though, with the brass springs, you can actually attach them via bolt snaps. So
oh yeah, of course you can.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's a GoDaddy thing. So Shaun Springs, but it's spelt wrong. It's spelled SEAN Springs.com. So that's owned by
mate. If I can hold on, if I can buy that on 123 Rich for 99p, and don't you dare buy it before me. Shaun's, don't stop it. I haven't even clicked on one. Yeah, accept.
No, it doesn't exist. it's all yours. Anyway, so whilst you're buying website URLs,
yeah, I can get it for 99p, guys. Should I forward it? I might forward it to the Spring Store. I'll buy it and forward it.
Anyway, so I'm talking about the green initiative. So this is a new segment to the podcast where I'm talking about sort of one aspect of sort of eco-friendly things that Simply Scuba, or our parent company, the Internet Fusion Group, are doing. So I just got a message that distracted me completely. Thanks, Greg. So I'm talking about our business ambition for 1.5 degrees Celsius. So this is something that we have signed up for, and it's a commitment with science-based targets. You can visit them at sciencebasedtargets.org, and they're basically looking at sort of beyond net zero carbon emissions and everything. And in that, we have to produce targets and like official reports. You can actually check out sort of our listing on their website alongside other companies like sort of Volvo and other sort of huge companies. And this is just one of the things that we're currently doing. Looking at last year's 2020's report, 90.4% of electricity that was used by the company was from renewable sources. 23.5% of that energy was from our very own solar panels on top of our warehouse. At the moment, we're on schedule to reach net zero 10 years ahead of target. We took this so very seriously that instead of just looking at the targets in I think it's 20 years time and going, okay, yeah, we can reach that by that time, we just went, no, let's see as much as we can do right now and get it done now. And when you look at the graphs, I think most of the actions began in 2018, and since then we had a 93.5% reduction in emissions last year compared to 2018. So we are absolutely smashing our targets, which is encouraging. And that's just one of the sort of the green initiatives. We have plenty others. What should I talk about next time, Shaun? Protect our winters, because that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about our charities. So we had a meeting during the week, didn't we, where we, generally things going forward for the charity, and a lot of other scuba diving brands or scuba diving companies that we will not name, they are linked to charities, which is good, but we are also linked to those or similar charities, or pretty much the same charity, but do the same thing. But the company as a whole don't sing and dance about it, because it's one of those things where it's just like, well, we're just going to do it because it needs to be done, sort of thing. So yeah, maybe talk about some of our charities. Yeah, Protect Our Winter. We've got the 1%, and then we've got the 2-minute litter pick scheme.
Yeah, 2-minute litter pick. which is, I think that was started by the sort of the surfing side of our company, but yeah, it works for scuba divers as well. Yeah, I did see a very cool one on Instagram, and it was just like a hand painted sign next to a trash can on a beach, and it was just like new human rule. Just spend like 2 minutes, just like picking up a few bits and bobs and disposing of them properly. It's like, yeah. This should be a new human rule. And I used to do that on the way to work. When I used to live down the road from Simply Scuba, I sort of walked into work, and yeah, you see something, you pick it up. It's like, actually, it's not that scary. It's not hard. And yeah, you'd get comments of people saying, "Oh yeah, no, good on you," and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully that makes a little bit of change just to make it socially acceptable. Because there was a news story of a little girl. She was a school kid, and she would do that. Sort of on her way to school, she'd pick up trash and just sort of dispose of it properly. And all the kids like sort of made fun of her and, "Oh yeah, you're the trash girl," or whatever it was. But now she's like I can't remember. She's like a
Kids are
kids are terrible, but now I think she's like an advocate for like National Geographic or something. I don't think it's Nat Geo, but she's like made a name for herself. She's in like international news. So yeah, it's the right thing to do.
It is.
But yeah, we'll talk more on that next week. Yeah, so on to social media channel updates for Simply Scuba.
Well,
so Shaun, you're talking about YouTube. Oh,
yes,
no.
so normally it's YouTube,
Yes.
Instagram, and podcast. Before I talk about YouTube, I want to shame 123 Reg. I tried to buy SeanSprings.com. It said it was 99p. Went to check out, and somehow it managed to whack up to £19.19. And I was just like, no.
It's probably seen me on a different IP address searching for it, and it's like, ooh, someone else is looking at this. I'll up the price.
Yeah, so thanks. So it was advertised as 99p. Went to check out, £19.19. I was like, nah, not. I pay 99p for a throwaway gag and a little forward, but not 20 quid.
No,
That's coffee money.
Quid.
That is coffee money. But anyway, yeah, so shame on you, 123 Reg. So normally it's YouTube, Instagram, and podcast. There's no news on Instagram. There's no news on the podcast because you're listening to it and it's all going swimmingly. But YouTube, so there's two things. Obviously, first off, you would have known by now that we are no longer, or we are ceasing to do daily scuba news. Not necessarily permanently, but if there's a cool story we do want and we want to talk about it, we'll upload a video. But yeah, the pressure of us doing 4 stories a week, we've just decided to can it basically. It was getting a bit thin on the ground, and yeah, we kind of. Not that we didn't like doing it, but because it was thin on the ground, we were having to do stories that we didn't really want to cover because we actually had to, release a video. So myself and Mark just thought it was the time to retire it. So Daily Scuba News is gone, but if there is a new story, we'll just basically film it, make it go live. So yeah, watch this space. Like if there's a new brand or a new product or something cool that's just happening generally in the diving industry, we will do a story on it, which is cool. I mean, also as well, that means we can do more focus on more things basically. So with over the next month, myself and Mark have got a plan to do certain videos and certain things, which we can't talk about. We're going to delete the channel. No one's going to think doing that. But yeah, no. So
think outside the box.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, so because we're going to have more time to plan and analyse and just up the production on things and all that sort of thing. So yeah, but we're not going to mention anything about that just yet because it's still early days. But yeah, we're sad to see it go, but also at the same time, you got to move on from these things. You know what I mean? All the people that have commented on the video, there's a couple of people that are upset by it, but the majority actually understand where we're coming from, and they're happy to see that kind of go. And and then potentially move it on to something else. But yeah, there's a couple of people that said that they were going to unsubscribe. So cool, if you're going to do that, that's fine. Which is a bit weird because Daily Scuba News wasn't the one that got the main views. It was just they've just unless sadly someone died or something horrible happened. That's generally what got views, which is I know something that you never really ever wanted to cover. And me being Mark, I'm like, we have to cover it because we've got to get the numbers. But now we don't have to worry about doing that. So, yeah. So that's that. And then also as well, just swiftly moving on, we got the votes. So, at the moment, guys, as of recording, we've had 125 votes for next week's surface interval. Scuba Diving Facts Part 2, 16%. Coolest things to look for in scuba diving is at 31%. And in the lead is the worst dive gear in the world, Part 2, at 53%.
Of course it is. It's always the negative stories.
Yeah.
It's always the worst or the bad.
Well, the recreational one. That's why in the title it says like the word sucks. Why recreational diving sucks? But then also as well, why is it awesome in brackets? So negative twist, but there's positivity there. But yeah, worst. That'd be quite fun. I can't remember what you did for part 1, but yeah, you're blatantly going to have to do that.
I'm hoping that other people don't remember so that I can kind of repeat myself a little bit.
Well, guys, what you need to do is go find the worst dive gear in the world part 1 and watch it religiously. I want to see that trend on our analytics over the weekend, please. I'll put a link to it down in the description below if you're watching our lovely audio voices. Just to throw you under the bus, Mark. I'm nice like that.
Yeah.
No. What could go in there right now? Something that's fairly modern that can go in there.
I'm struggling on my professionalism.
This Deco Stop, the professional. As soon as we hit record, professionalism for Deco Stop goes right out the door,
out the window.
Out the window.
I know all of my instructor training is like, no, don't say anything bad, because it's like, no, if you don't have anything good to say about something, don't say anything at all. But
he's doing a politician thing. He's stalling.
I know.
Come on, one thing.
I always come back to that deep blue cosmic.
The rattle.
That's so it's a dive computer company, and they were so pushy to get us to do a video on their dive computer. And we said, sorry, we only do dive computer. We only do sort of videos on like equipment that we sell at that point. And they were like, oh no, and they literally just mailed us 2 samples. And we were like, okay, well, all right, let's see what we can do. And the first one that I picked out of the box, when you get like a new piece of electronics and there's literally a loose screw on the inside rattling around, you're like, oh god, I can't do a proper review on this with like literal a loose screw just rattling around inside, and then trying to work out how to use the thing. You're like, I've used a lot of dive computers, and a few do stump me for a few moments, but this one, you really have to like spend a lot of time reading the manual to understand what it's trying to tell you. And it's
a bit weird. You have to go on a quest as well to get all the...
Yeah.
It's like out of Elder Scrolls.
From the outside, you're like, okay, it's got a very vibrant, bright display and whatnot. It looks very clear, but when you actually look at the acronyms, the like 3-letter acronyms it is trying to like tell you, you're like, what does that stand for? And it's just like, there are so many better options for divers. So yeah, that's usually at the top of my list.
There we go. So that's going to be number 1, probably.
Maybe.
Sweet.
It's all right. We'll cut that whole section out of the podcast.
Yeah, of course we will, Mark. Of course we will. I don't just cut the beginning and the end out.
Yeah.
Even the mistakes. Just leave it all in. It's more fun.
So on to scuba news. So this is like the new version of DSN. We're just spending a bit more time sort of in this section in the podcast, just discussing scuba news over the past week. So the first one is a bit of an update from the news story of there was a girl. Bless her. She was qualified, I think, out in Australia, and then she came back home to the US wanting to sort of continue her scuba diving training, and she unfortunately drowned. And I think part of it has been to court, sort of looking at whether the instructor was negligent because she wasn't wearing the correct dry suit, and all sorts of other things. And the court has basically stated, where was it? The document state was the instructor was, in quotes, likely at fault to some extent for Mills's death. We cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she was criminally culpable. So basically the instructor is kind of off the hook. And of course the families aren't happy with that. I mean, I only sort of read about this a few minutes ago, so I'll do a little more digging, and if there's anything, any more information, I'll cover it on next week's show. But yeah, it's never a nice never a nice story, nope. And at this point, it's kind of it's not going to be a happy ending. If you kind of like go after the instructor and the dive school and all that kind of stuff, you can sort of help prevent it from ever happening again, and sort of help other potential students that could hurt themselves. But at this point, you're just, I don't know, there's no like positive turn. It happened, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Next news story, a little bit lighter, but still staying in the legal system. So this is, so it started, I believe, I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, it may have started from a TikTok video of a Subway employee. Basically, he was singing to Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 about how he like hated being at work and whatnot. And whilst he was doing it, he was making the like tuna for their sandwiches, and it's like this freeze-dried block of just apparently tuna. And you like break it up, and then you have to like rehydrate it and mix it with mayonnaise and all that kind of stuff, and then it goes to the shop front. And
I'm hungry now, thanks.
But there's actually a class action lawsuit against Subway sandwiches, basically saying that, well, it's not tuna, and Subway have, God, I always love when their like legal team sort of presents a statement, and even the statement itself is ambiguous. They say that they provide sort of tuna at certain restaurants, but they haven't definitively said yes, it is all tuna, or it is yes. The way they word it is always very clever.
Yeah.
But basically, last week the New York Times they went to several Subway sandwich shops. And they bought a whole bunch of tuna sandwiches. They basically said, "Oh, no extras, no anything, just tuna, please," because any other sort of bits and bobs that they add to the sandwich, it would contaminate the results. Because they took the sandwiches, they immediately put them on ice, and then shipped them to a DNA lab in the US, and the lab basically analyzed the whatever it was in the sandwiches, and so the official statement was, the tuna sandwiches found no amplification products from the DNA, so they cannot identify the species. So it wasn't definitively tuna fish.
Nice.
And it's just like, huh.
It's bad, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't eat tuna, so
Yeah.
it's it's not an issue for me personally, but it's more that well you're claiming it's tuna. What is it? There was a whole thing a few months ago, sort of drawing light to, well, if you go to a restaurant and it says beef, it's beef. But a lot of the time you'll go to, I don't know, like fish and chip shops or something, and it's just like fish, or an ambiguous term like rock, or was it huss or something?
Yeah, something like that.
There are certain like just ambiguous terms that could be anything, and in that they actually found that a lot of the time it was like hammerhead sharks, but just sold as, I can't even remember what it was, like rock or huss or whatever they call it. So yeah, Subway are in deep water at the moment, and I think the most their PR department has kind of put out a statement has basically said, we send, I think they were like, we send tuna to our restaurants, and it's just
what it is they've just renamed one of their employees Tuna, and then they just go to each restaurant and like, look, tuna's there. We're not wrong. It's one of those things, isn't it, where there's probably, they just have to hit a certain percentage and then they can claim it all over.
Yeah. And it's like when they it's something to do with Aberdeen Angus beef. The cows can be like raised and bred and whatnot. They spend their entire life in like France or something, and then they ship them to Scotland. And because they're slaughtered in that one particular area, it can be classified as Aberdeen Angus. And it's just, what? That's not how this works.
Hey, marketing people, mate, companies, they're sneaky like that. Welcome to that world.
Anyway, so evidence of the oldest shark attack victim has been discovered. So this was, I think, in Japan. And archaeologists were sort of digging through this gravesite, and they found remains of a man who died about 3,000 years ago. And when they were looking at his skeleton, they found like 790 injuries all over his body, and they kind of like, what happened here? And so lots of little kind of scratches all over his arms, his legs, his chest. I think his left hand was also missing. So they're kind of like trying to piece together what could have happened, because he was buried in the like community graveyard very carefully. They're like, well, this wasn't like a battle or something. So they've kind of looked at the damage to the skeleton, and they've kind of come to the conclusion that this looks a lot like a shark attack, and they reckon that this is the sort of the oldest ever remains of a shark attack victim.
Wow.
At the moment, they believe that he was most likely fishing with others, because from what they can tell, he was recovered soon after, and they're basically sort of they pieced all this together, and they say, we reckon he was attacked by a shark. Another fisherman sort of recovered him, got him back to shore. He died, and then they buried him in the graveyard. But it's quite interesting.
Poor
how
guy.
much they can, it's incredible how much they can tell from like tiny like serrated cuts. They're like, oh, okay, because it's serrated, it's probably most likely a white shark or maybe a tiger shark, and they can get so much information just from these sort of injuries, that the only thing that they can't really sort of work out was like his name. At the moment, he's just called Number 24.
Catchy.
Yeah. Poor Number 24. But
Greg, let's do a petition. We'll name him.
Name him. No, don't ask the He'd be
yes,
like,
guys, do
Sharky McShark attack victim.
yeah, bitey McBitey dead dude.
Yeah,
God knows him.
basically.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah. The New Hampshire Fish and Game is urging locals not to paint turtles' shells in a new news story. So they're basically discovering that a lot of people, for what is seen to be like the best intentions, they're painting sort of local turtles bright colours in attempts to make them better visible for sort of cars so they don't get run over. However, the paint that they're using, it could, because like turtle shells, it's like their skin basically. Any kind of toxins from that paint could leach into the turtles. Because they're sort of amphibious, they're going in and out of the water, so it's going into the water systems. It's also, when you paint an animal a really bright conspicuous color, their predators are going to easily spot them. There's a reason why they're camouflaged. It's so they're not seen by predators. So they're kind of saying thanks, but no thanks. We get that you're trying to do a good thing, but actually it's probably a bad thing. It's probably a higher chance that this turtle is going to die now because some, I don't know, hawk or something is going to find it and pick it up. Yeah.
Tasty. Well, rather than that, they should have just put like not bandanas, but like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles just around their eyes, different colours. Put some like a little belt round there. Put some swords on their back, a big stick.
Yeah. There's just put a red dressing gown on a rat, and they're sorted.
That's more the turtles. They tell me they would have liked that. They don't like their shells being painted. That's a bit of a pants move to do.
Simply Scuba and the Internet Fusion Group do not condone dressing up rats or turtles as ninjas.
But ShaunSprings.com does.
Anyway, sticking in the US, but moving over to Lake Michigan, they've discovered a 10,000-year-old stone circle under Lake Michigan that archaeologists are quite interested in. I don't think they say exactly where it is for obvious reasons, but yeah, it looks a lot like Stonehenge. These it's a very, very big coincidence if it's just a natural formation, because it forms this like perfect hexagon.
And there's a plaque on it as well that says this is Stonehenge 2, which was pretty convenient.
Well, kind of, because they were looking at one of the stones, and I think someone's carved like a mammoth, a picture of a mammoth into one of these stones.
That's cool.
So they're like, yeah, this is like man-made. It's just trickier to reach because it's under the water.
Hold your breath. Get down there.
In the news story that I read, couldn't tell sort of how deep it was, but looking at the diver, if this is sort of in the right area, he's only on a single, so I imagine it's fairly shallow. But yeah, it's interesting. I imagine once they've done all of their like archaeology stuff, measuring and taking pictures and stuff, eventually they might sort of let people know the location, and that could become a very cool diving spot. One place where you're probably not allowed to dive right now is one specific area off the coast of Malta, and this is because a diver was cruising around just on a normal dive, not really looking for anything, off the coast of Malta, and they came across a bag, like a duffel bag or something. They checked it out, opened it up, and it had like guns and like a bomb detonator something inside,
which are now available at ShaunSprings.com if you'd like to purchase. We're branching out, guys.
So the diver kind of left it where it was. Told police. Police sort of soon after sort of went to check it out, and they confirmed that yes, it's a big bag of guns and stuff.
Guns and stuff.
Yeah, technical term. But they're not giving out too much information. I think it's to do with some kind of local, like, mafia or cartel, whatever they call it. And I think the information that has been released, they're saying, well, this chap was killed by a similar type of gun that's inside of this bag. This other guy was literally blown up by a bomb that would have used this kind of detonator. So they're like, yeah, I think we know, we reckon we know who it is. That's kind of thrown it in and what it's to do with. But yeah.
And luckily, guys, Malta for UK is on the green list now, not like the reserved green list. So if you want to go there to dive and find guns and explosives, you can.
You can if you want.
Why have they not put that in their tourism blurb or marketing mark?
Probably not something they're overly proud of. And then moving over to the US, in Florida, a diver has broken 2 records by spearfishing and removing the largest lionfish from the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes.
So
It was a
the
shark.
lionfish. It's like in Red Dead Redemption 2. It's just a donkey just with stripes.
Yeah.
No. So this is the largest lionfish caught in the Gulf of Mexico. It was 18.7 inches long, which is a record in itself, and it weighed 3.77 pounds, which is another record. And so he was diving, I think it was June the 9th, and this was in a state-sponsored sort of program to catch as many of these lionfish as possible, and he sort of set 2 records, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing that he caught it, but it also means that they're growing to this kind of size. So this might be a more common occurrence. Maybe it was just like a freak of nature, or maybe this is the way everything's going. But yeah, as beautiful as they are, don't want them sort of in the Americas. They're not endemic to that area. They are causing chaos to the local ecosystem. So everyone is doing everything that they can to sort of catch and remove as many lionfish as possible. Where was it? They said that in, I think it was 2018 they caught. Sorry, in 2019 they did a challenge, and in total, 25,000 lionfish were removed, and those are usually like I can't even think of the word. Extinction level.
Yeah, big numbers.
Yeah, numbers. In 2020, 21,000 lionfish were harvested, and it's just like, Struth, yeah, these things, they breed like rabbits. They have no real natural predators, and they just eat everything. So, everybody is basically encouraged to sort of catch them responsibly. Don't just go to your local dive centre, buy a spear gun, jump in the water and just have at it.
You might have to by this rate.
Well, there is some training that's required, because because they hang around reefs, if you kind of like shoot it, you're going to blunt your spear spear tips really quickly. By I was going to
say, they're doing it wrong if you're throwing your gun at
the entire gun. It's not a spear.
This is how it works, isn't it? I didn't take any training, but I'm guessing this is what this is. Single-use spear gun. I don't know what these
rubbery, springy bits are for, but hey.
They're for grip on the water as you hold on to it.
Adds a lot of drag.
Yeah.
But that's it. If you've seen any interesting news stories and you're listening to us on YouTube, then let us know down in the comments below. Try and send us a link, and we'll mention it in the next podcast. I'll try and read some updates on that poor girl, the legal court hearing that's going on, because I've only had like about 2 minutes to read the story before we had to record. But yeah, no more DSN. More time on our hands. So this is where we're just going to be discussing the news, underwater news and interesting things.
If the heads of Internet Fusion are listening, it's not more time for us to do nothing and chill. We are doing other work.
To do better things for the company, obviously.
It's like sleep. I meant work.
So on to my product of the week. So this is a humble one. I was looking at the new guideline reel from Apex, which is all sort of cool and all that kind of stuff. And then I thought, no, let's go to the other end of the spectrum.
The boring side.
Basically. But it's the kind of thing that's always overlooked, and it's the little additional sort of treatments and care products for scuba kit. And one of them is GearAid's Seal Saver. It's spelt seal like a seal, and it's it's more for like all of your scuba stuff instead of just dry suits. It's basically a conditioning agent. If you own a car and you look after the sort of the plastic components of the car, you'll know that you have certain treatments that you can put on it every now and then, and it keeps the sort of the plastic and the rubbery sort of components of the car just being fresher for longer. And this is basically what this does. It's great for seals, gaskets, O-rings, dry suit seals especially, but it just, with a lot of our stuff, if you just like leave it, just kind of like wash it with water and then just throw it in a bag, it can degrade over time, especially dry suit seals, latex seals. I've got a dry suit just over there that needs completely new seals because I didn't look after them, and they effectively melt into itself. Instead of like normal latex, it literally just turns into this like tar mess, sticky horribleness. But something like Seal Saver does help. It protects against sort of rust and salt oxidation, corrosion, all sorts of things. Cool. And you can use it to condition the rubber parts, the latex and neoprene as well, just to keep your gear looking and working for longer. So all these kind of things, check them out. I think GearAid is the real big sort of brand on the Simply Scuba website. So just head over to the brand page and there's all sorts. They're just like these little sort of bottles, like tonic-y things, and you can just sort of use them. Everything from like antimicrobial BCD washes to kill all the nasties. Same thing, but for your wetsuit. All sorts of stuff. It's definitely worth checking out. So yeah, check out GearAid on simplyscuba.com.
Sweet, that's awesome, and you should do. Shaun Springs does not sell them. We went to GearAid and they were like, "No, we don't want to deal with you because you sell springs
like, who's this?
And Mafia guns." It's up and coming, Mark.
It's a niche. Yeah, it's a gap in the market. Nowhere else sells nothing but springs and old rusty guns.
Yep, that's it. Springs. ShaunSprings.com. Anyway, swiftly moving on to this week's question. So, Mark, what advice do you have for people who want to get back into scuba diving? So they've taken some time out. Maybe they've had kids, had a family, or life's been odd the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And maybe they want to get back into diving. They haven't done it for a while. What advice would you give to the fellow soon-to-be divers again?
So the first thing is make sure that you're up to it. I think a lot of people, myself included, have put on a little bit of weight over the past year and a half.
I've got a keg, mate.
So
I had a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Now I've got a keg.
So yeah, I mean, one of the leading causes of diving incidents and especially fatalities is heart problems. So it's important to make sure that your ticker is up to scratch. Okay, you might sort of feel fine and okay, but I imagine most divers who have fatalities in the water, felt fine at the beginning of the dive. So it's important to make sure that you are physically sort of up to it. Just if you're worried, have a chat with your doctor, and just make sure that you are sort of physically up to it. Do a bit of sort of aerobics and whatnot. Get back into your physical fitness. Make sure that you are physically up to it. If you are, then check over your equipment, get it serviced. If you haven't used it in over 6 months, then most manufacturers recommend a service. It's not that expensive. It does make a world of difference, because the O-rings on the inside, they do the lubricants. It does sort of dissipate. The O-rings themselves, they do harden, so they're not as supple. They don't create as an effective seal as they should do. So yeah, just get your stuff out of storage. Have a good look over everything. Have a look at all of the stitching, all of the clips. Just make sure everything's up to scratch. Your cylinders, if you've had cylinders, you haven't used them in sort of over 6 months, it's worth swapping that gas out. Gas does go off when it's kept in storage, and actually in some cases it can be dangerous. I think there was at least one case of a diver fatality because they were breathing on gas that was old gas basically. Wow. And when it's kept under pressure for long periods of time, there is actually a chemical reaction inside of the cylinder that actually created carbon monoxide. So it is worth swapping out that gas, get some fresh stuff, have your cylinders visually inspected, because you can have rust on the inside where you might not have noticed it. And for the price that you pay, it's worth being sure that it is perfectly safe and up to scratch. Scuba reviews and just, what do they call it? I think they call it refresh or something now. Yeah, go over your skills. If you're pretty confident, then yeah, you can go to a safe environment like a local lake or something, with friends, and yeah, just go for a bit of a check dive, see how everything's working, practice your skills in a really safe environment, and then go out and do some proper diving. That check dive, I know it's a hassle. I know it's kind of like, it feels like a bit of a waste, but actually it's good for you to just mentally run through everything, practice your skills, practice your knots and all that kind of stuff. Make sure all of your gear is working in a safe environment, because the worst thing that you want to do is find out that your reel is jammed when you're under the water just about to do a safety stop, and now you've lost your reel and your DSMB because you didn't check it earlier. It's kind of one of those things. It's better to check it in a real safe environment. If something goes wrong, hey, whatever, it's a lake. The worst thing is that you're going to have to swim to the far side of the lake to collect your DSMB. If it's the open ocean, you got to buy a new one. So just think about your own health, make sure you're up to scratch. Think about your gear's health, make sure that's all perfect and working properly, and then do a check dive, make sure everything's working perfectly fine, both yourself and your equipment, and then think about sort of branching out and going somewhere a bit more exotic.
Excellent. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. If you're listening to this on YouTube and you yourself have recently had a sabbatical, was that the right word? Sabbatical from diving? You know, you've had a couple of years.
Kind of, yeah.
What tricks and tips and advice would you give? What did you do? Let us know in the comments. That's it. That is it for today. So I hope everyone's enjoyed the new green initiative section. I know we spoke about that briefly last week, but hopefully you've enjoyed that, and hopefully you've enjoyed the little extra news, the extra scuba news that we now do. Again, majority of those stories we would never have been able to turn into a daily scuba news because there wasn't really much to them. So it's kind of nice to wrang that out. But yeah, cool, man. Right, Mark, you know what you need to do.
On to the outro. So yeah, if you did enjoy, then of course consider subscribing. If there is a like button on whichever website you're viewing us on, then please click it. Don't forget to check out simplyscuba.com, because we sell all sorts of amazing scuba diving equipment. We're getting more and more stuff every single day. We're in talks with different brands as well to get more brands on board. If you're looking at a piece of equipment, but money's a bit tight at the moment, because let's face it, it is for a lot of cases, unless your last name is Bezos.
I can't wait for him to go to space and never come back.
So yeah, we do have 0% finance options that make buying scuba equipment a little bit easier for you. So we have Klarna. So Klarna is a system of 0% finance options, so you can sort of choose between different deals to make your life a bit easier. If it's a relatively small amount, then you can defer your payment for up to 30 days. So if you buy a new mask, you want to make sure that it fits first, then you can place your order, and it kind of puts the money sort of to one side. It doesn't take it out of your bank account, but it just kind of allocates it, and then you try it on. Yeah, I like it, and then you can pay for it. If you don't like it, then you can return it, and then the money never really leaves your bank account. I think it's just kind of allocated for a period. We also have a new thing, Adyen, which is new payment options. If you're aware of Adyen, then this will be a big deal to you. If you're not, it's definitely worth checking them out. It's just a way of making payment options a little bit easier and smoother at checkout. You don't have to enter your billing address and your shipping address and your mother's maiden name and all that. It's all kind of done on one system, so it's a bit more streamlined, it's a bit easier, and it's a lot safer as well, because there's encryption behind the scenes as well, so all of your payment information is actually pretty safe. If you do have any questions, comments, queries about anything to do with scuba diving, then use the hashtag #AskMark in any of the comment section across any of our social media platforms, and we'll get to them on the... Oh, is it still going to be on Friday?
At the moment, until we discuss other things. The schedule that I gave you was a potential schedule, nothing set in stone, and two, we've actually got to start planning and filming and doing stuff first before. Yeah. We nearly made the end of the show without spoiling some. Well, no, they still don't know what's going to happen. They just know that now that Ask Mark might change a day or a time or
once
something.
Once a week, we do a Q&A with myself and Shaun, where we basically discuss your questions in greater depth. So if you do have any burning questions about anything to do with scuba diving, let us know in the comments, and try and use the hashtag ¡AskMark or #AskShaun if it's
Nah,
to do with
don't use
hiking.
that, mate. No, don't do that.
If it's to do with like springs or
Raffia rusty guns.
If you do have any questions, if you want us to compare anything to do with scuba diving, let us know, and we'll help you out. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.
Stay classy, scuba divers.
The Deco Stop podcast is produced and recorded by Simply Scuba, the UK's #1 dive store. Visit today at simplyscuba.com.